There is a version of confidence that most people chase for years without ever truly finding. It is loud on the surface but fragile underneath. It depends on praise, on momentum, on results, on being admired by the right people at the right time. The moment life shifts, that kind of confidence begins to tremble. One failure can weaken it. One rejection can expose it. One difficult season can strip it down until all that remains is fear wearing expensive language. But unshakable confidence is not built that way. It is not something you paste over insecurity. It is not something you fake until it becomes believable. It is something your brain learns through repetition, attention, and experience. It is something you condition into your nervous system until self-trust becomes more familiar than self-doubt. This is where neuroplasticity becomes more than a scientific term. It becomes a personal revolution. Your brain is not fixed in the way your fear wants you to believe. It is not permanently chained to old reactions, old assumptions, old insecurities, old emotional patterns, old identities. It is always adapting, always rewiring, always strengthening what you repeat and weakening what you neglect. That means every time you rehearse hesitation, you reinforce hesitation. Every time you feed comparison, you deepen insecurity. Every time you let fear make your decisions, your brain becomes more efficient at fear. But the opposite is also true. Every time you practice courage, clarity, self-respect, and disciplined action, you are teaching your brain a new pattern of being. Confidence is not only emotional. It is neurological. Most people wait to feel confident before they act. That is why they stay trapped. They think confidence is the cause and action is the result. But in reality, action is often the cause and confidence is the result. The brain does not become convinced by what you hope about yourself. It becomes convinced by what you repeatedly show it. If you keep backing away from discomfort, your mind learns that discomfort must be dangerous. If you keep delaying hard conversations, your mind learns that honesty must be risky. If you keep abandoning yourself in moments of pressure, your mind learns that your own instincts cannot be trusted. Neuroplasticity means that your habits are teaching your brain what kind of person you are. The question is whether you are teaching it strength or surrender. This is why so many people remain stuck in low confidence even while consuming endless motivation. They are hearing new ideas but rehearsing the same identity. They are inspired for a moment, but their daily patterns still belong to fear. Their self-talk still leans toward doubt. Their posture still signals hesitation. Their behavior still revolves around avoiding discomfort. Their attention still feeds comparison and insecurity. The brain does not change because you enjoyed a powerful idea. It changes because you embody a new pattern often enough for it to become familiar. Confidence is not built through emotional peaks. It is built through neural repetition. If you want unshakable confidence, you need more than encouragement. You need rewiring. You need to understand how your brain learns, what it strengthens, and what it begins to treat as normal. This is not about becoming arrogant. It is not about becoming loud, dominant, or obsessed with how others see you. Real confidence is quieter than that. It is the calm steadiness of a person who no longer collapses so quickly under pressure. A person whose mind has been trained to return to self-trust instead of panic. A person who does not need constant outside reassurance because something inside has become stronger, more rooted, and more familiar. That is what we are building here. The first neuroplasticity hack is to interrupt the identity loop. Every brain is constantly reinforcing a self-image. I am awkward. I am anxious. I always fail. I overthink everything. I am not leadership material. I am not attractive enough. I am not disciplined enough. I am not the kind of person who speaks up. These thoughts are not harmless. Repeated often enough, they become instructions. The brain begins organizing behavior around them. If you keep telling yourself that you are timid, your nervous system starts preparing for timidity before the situation even arrives. Identity becomes expectation, and expectation becomes behavior. To rewire this, you must stop repeating identities built in pain. That does not mean lying to yourself with empty affirmations. It means becoming deliberate with the language that shapes your internal blueprint. Instead of "I am bad at this," move toward "I am learning to become stronger here." Instead of "I always freeze," move toward "I am training myself to respond differently." Instead of speaking as if your current struggle is your permanent nature, begin speaking as if change is already your direction. Neuroplasticity responds to repetition, but it also responds to emotional meaning. When you speak about yourself with conviction and consistency, you start altering the frame through which your brain interprets future action. The second hack is exposure to controlled discomfort. Confidence is not created in permanent comfort. It is built when the brain experiences discomfort and learns that you survive it. This is crucial. If you avoid every situation that makes you nervous, your mind never gets new evidence. It keeps believing the same old story, that challenge is threat, that uncertainty is danger, that visibility is risk, that speaking up leads to collapse. But when you take small deliberate actions into discomfort, your brain starts updating its expectations. You speak despite the shaking voice. You go despite the anxiety. You set the boundary despite the fear. You remain present through the discomfort instead of fleeing from it. That is how the nervous system becomes less fragile. Think of this as teaching your brain a new relationship with stress. Not all stress is damage. Some stress is adaptation. The muscle grows because of resistance. The mind grows because of exposure. Every time you survive something that once intimidated you, your brain records a new possibility. And what once felt overwhelming begins to feel survivable, then manageable, then normal. Confidence is often just repeated exposure properly integrated. Not once, not dramatically, but consistently. The person you admire for seeming calm under pressure usually did not begin that way. They taught their nervous system that pressure is not the end of them. The third hack is embodiment. Your brain is always reading signals from the body. Posture, breathing, tension, eye contact, movement, these are not small details. They are feedback loops. If your body is always collapsed, shallow breathing, withdrawn, hesitant, and tight, your brain reads that pattern as evidence of danger and insecurity. If your body is more upright, breathing more deeply, moving more deliberately, and inhabiting space with steadiness, your brain receives a very different message. This is not superficial. It is biological. The body influences the brain as much as the brain influences the body. That is why one of the fastest ways to interrupt a low-confidence state is physical. Slow your breathing. Lift your posture. Relax the jaw. Unclench the shoulders. Speak more slowly. Ground your feet. Hold eye contact 1 second longer than fear wants you to. These are not cosmetic tricks. They are instructions to the nervous system. When practiced repeatedly, they begin changing how your brain interprets challenge. Confidence is not only something you think. It is something you inhabit. And the body can become one of the most powerful tools for teaching your mind how to feel safe while staying present. The fourth hack is attentional discipline. Your brain wires itself according to what you repeatedly focus on. If your attention is constantly feeding comparison, social anxiety, imagined judgment, and worst-case scenarios, then insecurity becomes neurologically efficient. You become better and better at feeling not enough. Better and better at anticipating rejection. Better and better at scanning for signs that you are behind, inferior, inadequate, or likely to fail. This is one of the hidden costs of modern life. Too many people are unknowingly training their minds to feel weak by where they place their attention all day long. Rewiring confidence requires a different use of attention. You must become selective. Feed your mind evidence of growth, not just evidence of what you lack. Notice where you acted with more courage than before. Notice where you stayed present when you normally would have withdrawn. Notice where you kept your word to yourself. Notice where you handled discomfort with a little more steadiness. The brain changes through repetition, but it also changes through recognition. What you repeatedly notice gets reinforced. If you only notice your failures, your brain becomes a specialist in self-doubt. If you deliberately notice your progress, your brain begins building a more accurate and empowering self-map. The fifth hack is self-directed action before emotional readiness. This may be one of the most important principles in the entire process. Do not wait to feel like the confident version of yourself before behaving like them. Feelings are often late. The brain learns through doing first, then feeling later. If you wait until fear disappears, you may wait forever. But if you act with discipline while fear is still present, you create the exact evidence your brain needs in order to update its understanding of you. This is how identity changes in reality. Not through emotional permission, but through repeated action in alignment with who you are becoming. Imagine how powerful this is. Every time you do the hard thing before you feel ready, you are teaching your brain that readiness is not the gatekeeper of action. Every time you move while anxious, speak while uncertain, begin while imperfect, and show up while doubting yourself, you are rewriting what your mind thinks you are capable of. Confidence is not built by waiting for the perfect emotional state. It is built by proving to your brain that you can act with integrity and courage even when your emotions are not fully cooperating. That is one of the deepest forms of self-trust a person can build. The sixth hack is emotional reframing. Most people unconsciously label every internal intensity as a sign that something is wrong. Heart racing, sweaty hands, tension, uncertainty. They assume these states mean they are not confident enough, not ready enough, not capable enough. But the brain can be retrained to interpret arousal differently. Instead of, "I am panicking," you learn to say, "My system is preparing for something important." Instead of, "This means I cannot handle it," you learn to say, "This is activation, not incapacity." That shift matters because your interpretation of the feeling changes what the feeling becomes. The same bodily activation can be experienced as fear or readiness depending on how it is framed. This is why athletes, performers, leaders, and high-level professionals learn to work with activation rather than being ruled by it. They understand that energy does not need to be the enemy. Your brain can learn this too. The more often you interpret internal intensity as energy to direct rather than evidence of personal weakness, the less threatening that intensity becomes. Confidence grows because you stop fearing your own body. You stop treating every sign of activation as proof that you should retreat. The seventh hack is repetition with emotional consistency. Neuroplasticity does not respond only to intensity. It responds to consistency. Many people want transformation through breakthrough moments, but the brain is often changed more deeply by ordinary repetition. The small action done daily. The calm sentence repeated honestly. The posture corrected again and again. The difficult call made when needed. The boundary held consistently. The promise to yourself kept quietly. These actions may not feel dramatic, but they are exactly how a new self becomes familiar. What is repeated becomes believable. What becomes believable begins shaping identity. This is why confidence built on discipline is more stable than confidence built on mood. Mood changes. Discipline accumulates. If you only move when you feel inspired, your brain receives inconsistent evidence about your strength. But if you move because you made a decision about who you are becoming, then your mind receives the same lesson over and over again. I can trust myself to act. I can trust myself to remain. I can trust myself not to disappear when things get difficult. That trust becomes a new internal climate. And from that climate, confidence begins to feel less like effort and more like nature. The eighth hack is to reduce contradiction between your values and your behavior. Nothing weakens confidence more deeply than self-betrayal. When you know what you should do but repeatedly avoid it, your brain notices. When you say you want strength but keep choosing escape, your brain notices. When you say you want honesty but stay silent out of fear, your brain notices. When you say you want discipline but abandon yourself in private, your brain notices. Confidence is not only built by success. It is built by congruence. By the experience of knowing that your behavior is increasingly aligned with your values. This is why people can appear successful and still feel deeply insecure. If their outer life is built on performance while their inner life is full of self-betrayal, the nervous system never fully relaxes into confidence. It knows the image is unstable. But when your private actions begin matching your stated values, something changes. Your brain stops receiving conflicting data. It stops hearing one story and seeing another. It begins understanding you as a coherent person. And coherence is one of the deepest foundations of unshakable confidence. The ninth hack is environment design. Your brain is adaptive, which means it is always being shaped by context. If you remain in environments that constantly trigger comparison, passivity, self-doubt, distraction, and emotional depletion, then rewiring confidence becomes more difficult. If you surround yourself with chaos, inconsistency, and people who reinforce your smaller identity, your nervous system keeps returning to old patterns. But if you shape your environment intentionally, your inputs, your routine, your physical space, your conversations, your standards, your media diet, you give your brain a cleaner field in which new patterns can strengthen. This is not about avoiding all challenge. It is about removing unnecessary friction. Your environment should not constantly be teaching your brain that you are powerless, distracted, or behind. It should support your better patterns. A cleaner room can reduce cognitive noise. Better sleep can stabilize emotional regulation. Less comparison-based content can weaken insecurity. More exposure to grounded, focused, growth-oriented energy can reinforce a stronger internal identity. Confidence is not only built inside the mind. It is built through the systems that either support or sabotage what the mind is trying to become. The 10th hack is to collect proof. The brain trusts evidence. So start giving it evidence. Not fantasy. Not performance. Not inflated self-image. Real proof. The moments where you stayed calm. The moments where you did the hard thing. The moments where you kept your promise. The moments where you handled rejection without collapsing. The moments where you spoke with honesty. The moments where you remained steady in discomfort. These are not random. They are data. And the more you consciously collect them, the less power your old insecure identity has to define you. Many people remain trapped in low confidence because they keep emotionally revisiting their failures while ignoring their proof of growth. They have built a memory system that favors pain and forgets courage. That must change. Your brain needs reminders of who you are becoming. Write them down. Reflect on them. Revisit them. Let your mind absorb the fact that you are no longer the person you once were in every way. Confidence becomes stronger when the evidence of strength is no longer allowed to disappear beneath old insecurity. Now here is the deeper truth beneath all of this. Unshakable confidence is not the absence of fear. It is not a life without doubt, challenge, criticism, awkwardness, rejection, or uncertainty. It is the result of teaching your brain again and again that these things do not remove your worth, your presence, or your capacity to respond. That is what makes it unshakable. It does not depend on ideal conditions. It does not require perfect emotional weather. It remains because it has been wired through experience, through repetition, through action, through self-respect, through embodied discipline. Most people keep waiting to feel powerful before they behave powerfully. But neuroplasticity teaches the opposite. Behave in repeated alignment with the stronger identity, and your brain will eventually begin accepting it as real. This is not fake it till you make it in the shallow sense. It is train it till it becomes familiar. Build it until it becomes believable. Repeat it until it becomes natural. Confidence is not found. It is formed. And what is formed can be strengthened. So if you want to rewire your brain for unshakable confidence, begin where the brain actually changes. Watch your identity language. Expose yourself to discomfort in measured ways. Use your body to lead your mind. Guard your attention. Act before emotional readiness. Reframe activation. Repeat with consistency. Align your behavior with your values. Shape your environment. Collect proof. None of these will feel magical in one day. But together, over time, they become neurological architecture. They become the structure of a different mind. And once that structure begins to hold, your life changes in ways that are subtle but powerful. You stop panicking so quickly under pressure. You stop needing so much outside reassurance. You stop collapsing after small setbacks. You stop negotiating so much with fear. You trust your voice more. You trust your decisions more. You trust your capacity to face what comes more. The world may not become easier, but you become steadier within it. That is what real confidence feels like. Not inflated. Not loud. Not desperate to be seen. Just rooted. Your brain is always learning who you are. The only question is what you are teaching it every day. If you keep teaching it fear, avoidance, self-doubt, and self-betrayal, it will become efficient at weakness. But if you teach it courage, discipline, coherence, and repeated self-trust, it will begin building a mind that does not shake so easily when life becomes difficult. That is the opportunity in front of you. You are not condemned to your old patterns. You are training something every day. So train strength, train steadiness, train self-trust. And little by little, your mind will become a place where confidence no longer needs permission to exist. If you are ready to rewire your mind and build real confidence, comment now. I train my brain for strength.